Hi, everyone. It's Ligia. Welcome to Potentials. I'm joined with Mark Pratt, who is the author of Who Told You That You Were Human? Beyond the Veil. We're going to have a fascinating discussion on the pyramids with their multidimensional function and a bunch of other beautiful pictures that he brought. So I'm looking forward to it. And thank you so much, Mark, for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Ligia. I really appreciate what you're doing with Potentials, and I think you're the perfect person to help me um, really just kind of lay out what I've seen through non-physical phenomena. We'll get to that, to understanding the pyramids. So I'm really looking forward to this. So, and again, I really appreciate you for what you're doing with Potentials to help people understand our true potential.
Well, thank you, Mark. I mean, you're doing pretty much the same thing with phenomena, and I appreciate what you do as well. I just think the pyramids are such an amazing, interesting subject that we just barely scratched the surface. You know, we're sort of discovering new things about them every day, but there's
Right.
so much more to them than what we can even possibly know. So, anything that you can bring to the table, which I know is a lot.
Yeah.
I really appreciate.
Oh, thank you so much. We've got a lot to cover.
Mhm.
Um, so I really want to say that I'd like to start off with Nikola Tesla, if we can put that image
Yes,
up of Nikola Tesla.
there we go.
This can really help people kind of set the tone for what people can expect in this interview. Um, I can't really see it, but I mean, because it's kind of small, but I can pretty much quote it. The day that science begins to study non-physical phenomena, they'll understand more in one decade than all previous centuries combined. And I
Right.
think that that is just one of the most astonishing quotes that anyone's ever made. So what he's saying here is if science or academia, let's just put academia in there, because you've got geologists, you've got Egyptologists, you've got historians, and so on and so forth. If they would, he's saying if they would study non-physical phenomena for 10 years, one decade, they'll understand more than all previous centuries combined. So in other words, he said, if you'll just take 10 years, you'll understand all everything before now.
It actually says we will make more progress in
We
one
make more,
decade.
yeah, make
Yes.
more progress in one decade.
Hmm.
Um, so ten. So in
Which,
other words, he just said if they would just take the time to study 10 years non-physical phenomena, well, then that's the key to the universe.
yep.
And so, yeah, and then so understanding that, if you could maybe put a screenshot up of my book cover. Um, um, I think if people would ask this one question, who told you that you were human? Um, I think that's a question that would um, facilitate a tsunami of more questions, because once you start really dissecting that question, wait a minute, well, who told me that I'm human? A lot of people say they're spirit having a human experience, but I would even challenge that.
Mm.
and
Yeah.
then and then the subtitle is Beyond the Veil. And so Beyond the Veil is tapping into this non-physical phenomena that we're going to be talking about. So,
So,
go ahead.
uh, just a question. So, if we're not human, then what are we?
Well, I don't tell people what to believe as far as God or source um, but we're pure God source energy. Some people say we're a fractal of God. Um, but the bottom line is the flesh is the veil. Ancient text, like the Bible says that the flesh is the veil. But then
Mhm.
the veil between heaven and earth. That's the reason for the book cover. They say don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
There's a picture of heaven and earth, and this isn't a religious discussion, but um, you know, Scripture mentions, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, um, and then in the middle of the book it said heaven and earth will pass away, And then Revelation says, I saw a new heaven and new earth. So don't judge this book by its cover. What exactly is heaven and earth? And we'll get to that here in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I love
let's
to
just
throw out the questions,
yeah, yeah. So let's just get away from the pictures for a moment, and then we'll come back to that in a minute.
Okay.
Oh, they got a
You,
sneak peek of what's coming.
oh yeah.
um, yeah, you can just get away from the pictures for a moment. We'll
Oh,
just
okay.
talk.
Stop share. All right.
Right, right. Okay, there we go. All right. So um, first of all, I'd like to say, most people do not have a clue to what the world was like pre-Diluvian age or pre-flood. So I'd really just like to, this is a buffet of information, and we're just giving meat today. I mean, because we could talk for hours and hours and hours. But first of all, I'd like to say that the pyramids were not built; they were created, and I'm going to be dropping some truth bombs that people should really say, well, wait a minute, what did he just say? They weren't built; they were created. And I guess before I list their multi-dimensional functions, I guess so to build something, I used to be a carpenter. You'd have to gather all the materials, you'd have to have a blueprint, so on and so forth. And so this is why I'm really stressing that to understand the pyramids, if you look at it from academia, you're looking at it from what you've been taught. You know,
Yeah.
non-physical phenomena is an experience. So maybe I should say what non-physical phenomenon is. How did Nikola Tesla access all the information that he did, and how did he accomplish what he accomplished? Well, he went beyond the veil. He was interacting with non-physical phenomena. So when we go back to when the pyramids were created, they talk about a builder race. In other words, they're using the wrong words. Building the pyramids or build a race. And that's where I fundamentally think they're not seeing things. So when you talk about creating things, so if you go from building to creating and build a race to create a race, now you're talking. So the creative race of people, whether you want to call them the Elohim or whoever you want to attribute to whoever created the pyramids, they had a mastery of the elements. They had 100% access of their mind, 100% access of their DNA. To the point, let's go back to the day that the pyramids were being created. They were able to tap into not just the air, the wind, all of the elements, but back when the pyramids were created, it was a lush garden. It was a Garden of Eden. Okay, the earth was less dense. Our bodies were less dense. Telepathy, telekinesis, psionic abilities, supernatural abilities. In other words, it could communicate with the elements.
They were able to interface with their environment.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in other words, innumerable amount of sand on the ground, dirt, what have you, to the resonant harmonic frequency of a palm tree or the bee's wings 10 miles away, to how it's going to affect a star in another solar system. In other words, that's how well connected they were with what they were fixing to create. Okay, so think of levitation, calling all the stones. They were, and here's the thing, I always look at when they talk about boring holes and the tools that they think they use to cut things, they were cutting it with their mind.
Right.
Everything was, in other words, the power of their mind. They were able to manifest consciousness into the material world.
Right. It was
And
thought
that's a big
based.
statement.
Everything
Thought
was
based.
thought based. It was a thought based universe or world realm.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so, but they had a what I call a pure God conscience. In other words, if people were able to manifest at will, in other words, manifest their thoughts right now, well, it would be chaotic.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
they would be
Yeah.
creating something. So it
Hitchhiker's
has to
Guide to the Galaxy. Yep.
right. It has to be an environment that's conducive um, for uh, for manifestation. And so, um, what I believe, what I believe from what I've been shown is the Great Pyramid is a harmonic resonant instrument to transform human consciousness. In other words, it'll literally hemisync your brain, Christ consciousness. Okay, but they created what we live in today, what they call the matrix. So if you think of cities, it's squares, it's high-rise
Grid. It's
buildings,
a
it's all
grid.
squares.
Yeah.
It's correct.
It's a grid. Right.
But if you look at ancient structures, they've got pyramids, they've got obelisks, they've got temples. Okay,
And circular areas, lots of
right,
circles, right?
right,
And pyramid and mounds and yeah.
right. And so, well, different civilizations, different epoch of times, you know,
Yeah.
but you can get out into each realm was destroyed, or went away
Mm.
some way. Because I
Yep.
believe Earth is a dimension with many realms.
Mm. Layers.
Not
Yeah, too.
right.
Yeah.
It's layers. It's layers.
Right. Right.
And so when you look at the pyramids, being around that area, if you go look all up along the Nile, which is basically a representation of the motherboard within you, we'll get to that in a minute.
Yes.
Um, what I believe is, when they talk about the mystery schools, I believe the pyramids, the temples, and the obelisk, in other words, the hieroglyphics, is a living language. It's a living language. In other words, you could look at one relief on the temple and have an experience. You would have a that non-physical phenomena. You would have an experience. You would interact with that living language of the hieroglyphics. So I believe the priests were there. They were just keepers of the pyramids and the temples and all, but they were just keepers. They weren't the teachers. They were the
Right.
keepers.
Right.
But the actual structures themselves were the teachers.
Mm.
Were the mystery schools. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep.
And I saw a video about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where they were in there at night and they were shining their light on the hieroglyphics, but the hieroglyphics were pulsating. The light was coming through the. In other words, people are really starting to see what I've seen for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
Um, and this is, there's no ego. All this information is going to come out. It's just that, um,
It's coming alive.
right, right. And um, so that's what, like I said, I believe that's what especially the Great Pyramid. But then you've got the pyramidal network. If you think it's as above, so below, as within, so without. We're going to get to that in a minute. But if you look at the entire um, pyramidal network of the Earth, just think of ants, pyramid ants. Nobody's talking about the ants, and so I'll get to that in just a second. But ants
Interesting.
colonize. Ants colonize, and they create these elaborate colonies and tunnel systems right underneath their pyramid. But if you
Yes.
if you go 50 or 100 yards to, you'll see another pyramid, and I live in Texas, so I mean, you'll just see pyramid all over the place. Well, that's giving you an idea. That's telling you what the pyramids were. So I mean, so for them to say that there's nothing underneath these pyramids, they're not telling the truth.
Oh yeah.
Um, you know, and
Yeah.
and so
Well,
they're connected that way. And so
right.
um, and so I guess I'd like to say what the pyramids were like pre-flood. Just think, free energy, freedom for humanity. There would not be a matrix system. You could access 100% of your mind, 100% of your DNA, hemispherical synchronization of your mind, Christ consciousness, heart-brain coherence, this would have a profound effect on your human body, which you're not human. But I have to say that to people. Age regression, activate all 360 senses. This is what I'm talking about, a mastery of the elements. In other words, they don't call organs in your body organs for nothing, because every organ has its own resonant frequency. So can you imagine being in tune with the universe within you? Having senses, like you could communicate with your liver and your
Yeah. We
endocrine
can
system, and
now. We can do it now. We just don't remember it, but we're getting it back.
right. And so what I'm talking. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying about, if pre-flood with the pyramids. So if they were to come back online, this would happen. And then activate supernatural abilities. Your true potential. Wireless communication, telepathy, psionic abilities. Your psyche abilities. You could actually look up psionic abilities and blow your mind. What they're telling you out there. They're putting it in our faces. DNA restructuring on a cellular level. Harmonic cymatic sound healing. In the King's Chamber. But then they also had a resonant frequency around the actual temples and they created a harmonic environment with the structures they created. Teleportation throughout Earth into the stars, terraforming the Earth. It would re-terraform the Earth to be less dense. Coastal and continental stabilization. If you look at the Bible flood, it gives a very graphic description of how the Earth cracked open and so on. So I do believe in that there was a supercontinent that Pangea, that separated the land masses. So it would bring it back together.
Ah.
Yeah, it would a return to the Garden of Eden, direct connection with God's source energy, because they walked with God in the garden. There was no separation. And then dematerialization. Dematerialization of anything that is not in harmonic resonance with nature. And so that would mean, when I started seeing all this information, I don't need confirmation, but I get confirmation from the universe, from God's source.
Yeah.
And I started telling people about this back in 2019. And I came across an article. It was called Genesis 6. And they wrote an article about how the Egyptian government wanted to put the capstone back on the Great Pyramid in the year 2000. And the article read to where they wanted Elon Musk to go there, and they were talking about uploading people's consciousness into the cloud.
Wow.
And I can't find this article. I can't find this article anymore.
Wow.
But
When was this?
I was telling people in 2019 about this, and I can't remember the date of the article, but I've tried to find that article.
Yeah.
But in October of 2019, December, they decided not to put the capstone back on the Great Pyramid because they didn't know what it would do to modern technology.
Wow.
So what I tell people is what I believe, what I firmly believe from what I've been shown, is it would make all existing technology obsolete.
Yes. And it should
Because
be, because this is much better technology.
right. And so
Wow.
if we're, none of us know everything, but if we're living cycles, and we're going back to a golden age, then doesn't it make, and if you look at the many different realms, if you look at the mud flood, if you look at Tartaria, if you look at meltology, if you go back and you look at all these different civilizations and how they were once thriving and reached a certain level, and then, but if you go back, we can see, to the, even these big mountains that are tree stumps, if you think about the giants that are mentioned in ancient texts, you can go back and we can see where these realms existed. You see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so prior to my awakening in 2016, I had seen the pyramids, but they weren't really on my radar. It wasn't until after I published the books that my mind exploded
Hmm.
with the knowledge of the pyramids. So, um, what is non-physical phenomena? It's dreams, visions, trances. Trances are in ancient texts. A lot of people think that's witchcraft or voodoo, but it's not. Um, the best way I can describe a trance is if you go to a movie theater, you're in a trance until you get to go use the restroom or some popcorn or some Coke. uh, until that movie's over with, you're in a trance. Until that movie goes off, and they turn back the lights on, you come back to yourself. Um, so
It's
and then
also very similar to playing a video game.
right. So dreams, visions, trances, experiences, and encounters. So experiences would be, astral travel, out of body, and interdimensional contact with interdimensional beings. And so that's what my book is about. I in 20 September 2016 to um, January of 2017, I had amassed 550 voice recordings of things that were going on in my life. One night I had 12 dreams, and
Wow.
I made voice recordings of all of them. And then in February, people said, "Mark, you need to write a book." So over the next 2.5 years, it took to write. I actually wrote two books. The second one was 2045, Take Me to Your Leader, where I predicted what was going to happen from 2020 to 2045. And everything I said came to pass with stunning accuracy. And I don't take credit for that. I was just shown. And I
Right.
would like to interject. This is your potential. This is the possibilities. And we're fixing to get
Yes.
to that. But did you have any questions on anything that I had said about what would happen or what the earth was like? The things that I listed, with age regression, time travel, um, stargates, portals opening up, um, the terraforming the earth, the earth being less dense. So I believe, yeah, if we were to resurrect the pyramids, the whole face of the planet would shift and change, and to the point that I believe everybody would become 100% conscious with a pure God source consciousness, and we would be able to create, um, I believe that would happen.
Right. So I heard someone say one time that you couldn't it wouldn't work because the Schumann resonance is different now than it was then. But what you're saying is that it would basically probably change the Schumann resonance to be back to what it was.
Right. And furthermore, if science and academia would actually start looking at this from the Earth's atmosphere was different.
Yes.
I always talk about the movie Lucy. That movie is about consciousness. What you're conscious. When you're 30%, 40%, 50%, 100% conscious. Um, you you have to get away from academia, tap
Yes.
into non-physical phenomena, and understand what a creator race was capable of doing. So if you look at what is it, the Cardigan scale? On is that the Cardigan scale about what a type 1, type 2, type 3, 4, and 5?
Oh, right, right. And I know what you're talking about. I forget the name, but you're close. Yeah, yeah, there's different type 1, type 2, type 3 civilizations, and we're not, I don't even think we're on the map at this
Oh, we're
point.
not. We don't even.
We're not even
We don't.
close.
We're infants.
Yeah,
We're not even a type 1.
we're not even a type 1. Right.
So just imagine just being able to, and I mentioned this in the book. Where I created a crystal pyramid, and I talk about just being consciously aware of all the elements, and how the earth, I could communicate with the earth, and the earth cooperated with me, and I created this crystal pyramid, and I love it 5 times the size of Giza, and I levitated it off the earth. That was an experience I had. uh this it's pretty amazing, but what's even more
Wow.
amazing and what's even more amazing and heartbreaking is all the lies that we've been told and all the lies that we've believed.
Yes.
And I just believe that 2024, you know, everybody's talking about a shift coming.
Mm,
This shift, whatever they believe it is, solar flare, plasma event, whatever. Um, they've talked about Project Looking Glass. What they've saw coming. And I actually just watched a Joe Rogan video that basically said that you know he believes something could happen in an instant. That life could change on Earth. You know, but I didn't
yeah.
want to get too far away from that. Um, so did you have any questions about that, or would you want me to um, talk about? So that's three-dimensional pyramids. That's what we see out in the world.
Right.
What I was shown
Was an
during this
energy.
um,
Do you
is
want?
that our human energy structure is a pyramid. So yeah, we'll okay. So this is the most important part. It's not just resurrecting the knowledge of the three-dimensional pyramids, like the Great Pyramid, or the pyramids in Antarctica or Teotihuacan, Mexico. It's important because in my book I said they were built. One of the reason why they were created is monuments to us. A 3D representation of our spiritual energy structure, our energetic structure. Here, excuse me. Now they've got most of this right, but you'll see how the capstone represents your consciousness.
Right.
And so just imagine, you can read that if you want to.
Yeah, this right here demonstrates the excitation of the membrane, and then this wave here is a thought wave. Um, and then this says impulses heading towards consciousness, which is what all these little gradients are. And then this says three stages of thought generation. And this says energy
Right.
structure of a human.
Right. So when I talk about resurrecting the pyramids, ultimately I'm talking about resurrecting you, your true potential. And so um
So are we
th-
missing a
th-
capstone?
uh, well, here's the thing. I go into that in great detail in the book. um the fall in the garden, like I said, I'm not religious, but it's a spiritual document, the Bible. When God told Adam and Eve what not to do, he said, "In the day you do this, you shall surely die." Well, after they did what he told them not to do, did they die? No. He just um it says that they were both naked and not ashamed, but when they did what he told him not to do, it said that their eyes were open and that they knew what they were naked. And so when he come in the garden, he asked him, "Where are you?" And Adam said, "I hid myself because I'm naked." He said, "Well, who told you that you were naked?" So that's how I got the title to the book.
Right.
I'm paraphrasing what God said. In other words, what lie did you believe to do what I told you not to do?
Hmm.
So who told you that you were human? It's a lie.
Right.
And so they didn't die. So what happened? They lost God consciousness. This is where humanity lost their abilities, or mankind lost their abilities right here. And
Yes.
so the pyramid, now when we look at it, we see that the capstone is gone, which is telling humanity that they're unconscious, and the limestone casing skins are gone, telling us to look inside. So we'll get to a
Interesting.
we'll get to a picture here in a minute to describe what God did here in a minute. So if you just go to the next slide,
Right.
you want to read that?
Yes. Stimulation of the membrane, and then there's the thought, three phases of creation of the thoughts. Stimulation of consciousness. Two is field of consciousness carries impulses back to the brain and personality. And three is feedback impulse moves towards personality via septonic field of consciousness.
Okay, so people don't have their capstones,
Right. We're missing a capstone.
right? They're
Basically.
unconscious. They're unconscious
Right.
for a reason.
Right.
The people that have been doing created this matrix system. We're fixing to get to some pictures here in a minute to show how they demonize the pyramids and make you think it's evil when it's not.
Right.
And so the next slide. Okay, so now you see a representation of your human energy structure, or your pyramid energy structure, and how it connects to the field. And if you'll look at the little round white dot in the solar plexus of
Yep, right there.
the biological avatar, that is where your soul is anchored into your biological avatar, or your flesh veil. And then the line to your consciousness is the silver cord the Bible talks about. So when they talk about death, they're basically talking about when the soul, or the silver cord, is loosed from the physical
Right.
body. It
Right.
immediately goes back to God's source.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't die. That's the eternal, immortal part of you.
Yes. Yep.
The body, the physical body avatar stays behind.
This is the
So
part of you that's real.
right, that's the part of you that's real.
Yep.
So the next picture. Okay, so you've got, if you want to read, the four essences of the pyramid, and how it's
Okay, so we've got the detached top, the truncated pyramid, and the soul right here. We have the front essence, the right essence, the left essence, and the back essence. And then here it also shows the soul in the middle, as we discussed. Over here, I don't think I can zoom in as well,
not to
but
worry about. You've
oh,
already
there it
read that.
is. There it is. Um, 3 stages of the process of emergence of thoughts. Thoughts attack, the field of consciousness. Let me move that out of the way. In its turn, transmits reactive impulses to the personality and the brain. And 3, the human brain sends a response impulse to the personality. And this says field of primary consciousness, which consists of septon. I like this concave part right here. There's something in physics that I won't go into right now. But anyway, yes, this another kind of concave thing. So very interesting. I like this illustration.
Right. And I give credit to whoever these are, whoever created these images. I'm glad somebody put it out there. I don't know who.
Allantrascience.org. Yep.
Yeah.
Very good.
And then you see your auric field
Yes.
inside the pyramid
Right.
structure, energy structure.
And it looks like the
And
soul even has an auric field.
yeah. And they say that you could feel Gandhi's aura a mile away, and they say that you could sense Jesus's aura 5 miles away.
Yes, he had a huge bubble.
Right. And so, okay. You want to go to the next slide? Whenever.
Sorry, I needed some water.
That's all right. Okay. And so now you see that how it makes sense, but the all-seeing eye, that's your pineal gland, and that's your Christ consciousness.
Yeah.
But they want you to, the people that have been behind the veil, controlling humanity, they do not want you to understand the beauty of, Tesla said, if you understand 369, you understand the keys of the universe. I think if people understood the beauty of the pyramids, what God created, and understand their true potential, it'll, I think Manly P. Hall said something to the effect that the day that humanity um, understands symbolism, a great veil will be removed from them. So this is another reason why we're trying to help people understand what the pyramids are.
We're getting there. That's sacred geometry is part of that too. So we're
Right.
we're starting to figure it out.
And then this
Oh
next
yeah.
one's going to be pretty mind blowing. Um, I'll let you, because
All
I
right,
can't
I got
read
to
that
move
at
this
all.
out of the way. The all-seeing eye is not an original Masonic concept. It is not evil, it's biological. We all have one. Yes. So they're, just showing them on the money, on the pyramid, on the money, and in this pyramid. And then it says 3 phases of creation of the thoughts.
Yeah,
One,
you've read that one before.
okay,
I'm just,
sorry. So
if
this
you
is
want
the
to,
this is the
right.
other part here. So Wadiet? Wadiet? I don't know. I guess
You
that's
probably won't be able to read that, but if you want to read the
I don't know what
carbon
that
method,
means. I can read it. I just don't know what Wadiet means. But that's the little eye thing with the thingy
right, and that's
underneath it.
yeah, and that's your pineal gland. It's the throne of God, what's inside your
So all of the little
God,
sections have a meaning. Right.
right,
Okay.
right, and
Interesting.
then if you want to read the bottom,
Pineal gland, seat of the soul, ancient knowledge. The number 666 relates to the carbon atom and man. Carbon 12, one of 5 elements in the human DNA, is composed of 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons, which equates to 666. Carbon 12 is the most abundant of the 2 stable isotopes of the element carbon, accounting for 98.89% of carbon. Let that sink in. So it's over here, this chemical makeup. This is the chemical makeup of melanin,
right,
and
and
it's six
so if you
electrons, 6 protons, and 6 neutrons. Let that sink in.
yeah, and so yeah, thank you. You can get out of the screen share now. And
Okay.
so yeah, and so if you read Revelation, it says it's the number of man. It's telling you the carbon makeup of man. And I don't want to get too deep in that, but I did get deeper in the book. And so yeah, if you'll pull up go back to, I tell you what, go back to the pictures and go to the double picture of that one right there. Okay, so there you are. Um, that's what the limestone casing is. It's casing skins. It's casing skins, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So by looking at the bottom picture, the capstone is gone, and the limestone casing skins are gone, which is telling you that mankind or humanity is unconscious, and they need to look within for the answer. Now go to the
That's interesting.
image to
This
the one in
this
the
one?
garden. No,
Oh, the one in the garden.
the last one, that one. Okay, now I don't know if you can zoom in on that or what have you. So, yeah, kind of scroll up to its head.
That's as
Um,
far up it as it goes. It
oh,
doesn't
okay.
have it's
We
cut
weren't just trying
off.
to show we weren't just trying to show the rear end, but um,
That's kind of what here we'll go.
I found this image. Um, well, you can zoom back out, or they can get the idea.
Yeah.
So when I say that the Earth was less dense and we were more transparent, this is what I was talking about.
Mm.
So um, Adam and Eve had seen each other's genitalia, but they had a pure God conscience. They didn't know what that was. When they sinned, they immediately knew that they were naked and they were embarrassed. They were ashamed. Okay, so then God dealt with them. The whole narrative in the Bible. But then it said the Lord God made coats of skins. Okay, you can zoom. You can go off screen share.
Interesting.
Okay, so
Okay.
now if you'll look at me.
Hmm.
The Lord God made coats of skins.
Right.
He clothed us in this.
Right. Right. Right.
Okay,
Yes.
that's where we got this, because
Mm.
originally we didn't have this.
Right.
So that
Interesting.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's an old saying: if God wanted to hide himself, he would hide himself inside of man, because that's the last place he's going to look. Okay,
Yeah.
so in other words, hopefully I've helped people understand how the pyramids were created, and that the deeper spiritual meaning is our energy field, our energy structure is a pyramid. And that's, if you'll go back to screen share one more time, and then we'll be done with the screen sharing. Um, put that picture up where I was in Egypt.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a dream that I recorded in my book. Hold on one second, I gotta get some water. I describe in great detail where the stone to the left, me and some ants were sitting on that while Khufu was being created. Most people think that that pyramid behind me is the Great Pyramid. It's not. That's Khafre or Khufu.
Okay.
They always show Khufu or Khafre as the Great Pyramid. That's not. That pyramid to my left, that stone to my left, that's the Great
Yeah.
Pyramid.
Okay. Right here.
And so, if you can imagine me and the ants sitting on that stone right there to the left,
Yeah.
um, we were sitting on top of that when Khufu was being. Now, Khufu was kind of built, created. But if you'll zoom back in just to the picture, because I want people to know just make it regular. Okay. So over to the right, if you can imagine, a cigar-shaped spaceship was there,
Hmm.
and gray alien hybrid. They were a cross between gray aliens and ants. They had mandible jaws. Um, so the gray aliens, the ants, there was a spaceship there. The Earth was less dense. It had more of a. You could see the gold dust in the air. I
Monatomic
don't know.
gold.
Right. And then to my left, to the left of the Great Pyramid, there was an energy there in the dream. I did not know what or who it was. And it took me a couple of years for me to realize it was Thoth.
Hmm.
So that's not I didn't write that was Thoth in my book. I just, it took me a while to remember. So that's what was going on in one dream of how I seen, at least Caffrey, being built, created by, you know, the ants and the great aliens. But now
And when
The Great Pyramid was created by the creator race.
and when they created these pyramids, the creatures that you described, were they doing it with thought based, creating with their thoughts?
Oh yes, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely,
And so you got to
absolutely,
actually watch that happen.
absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah, there's hundreds of dreams, visions, trances, experiences, encounters, um, in the book that I wrote.
Was
And
it
so
instantaneous? Was it like, sorry, I just had these questions that are popping into my head. Was it instantaneous or was it something that it took time for it to happen from when they thought of it to when it actually materialized?
less than it takes time for a pyramid colony to create a pyramid colony now. Like, it would only take you can go to bed one day and wake up tomorrow and there'll be a pyramid, the pyramid
Oh,
ant pile in your yard. So as
okay.
far as there's time doesn't exist, but in our way of thinking, it manifested pretty quickly.
Right. That's what I was just trying to imagine. Like, was it something that just like faded into existence, or was it something that actually had to physically be done? Like, I just trying to get to imagine it.
Well, you got to realize another thing: mathematics and physics really doesn't work in that dimension, in that realm. And so, while I appreciate everything that you're saying now, um, if they keep looking at it now, they're still gonna miss it. And so, one of the other things that I haven't mentioned is that at least they say that the Ark of the Covenant fits perfectly inside the box inside the King's Chamber. Um, One of the things that, this goes back to Scripture and manna from heaven. Um, there are some people out there that have said that that they've created monatomic gold, wafers, inside the King's Chamber. And another thing, I wish I would have thought about it, but if you remember those bags all over the world, these depictions of these deities, are entities, interdimensional beings, like the Sumerians and so on and so forth. They're carrying these bags.
Yeah.
What I believe could potentially be in those bags was either mushrooms, psychedelic, um, psychedelic causing, um, herbs or what have you, or it could have been monatomic gold.
Hmm.
It's a very strong possibility that they had monatomic gold in those, in wafers. To
What would
because if
that do? What would that
this was for the pharaohs and the royals to tap into their full potential. Their
so would they
um.
ingest it or what would they do?
Oh yeah. You ingest it.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, now you can get it. Now you can
In
actually
liquid
get it.
form. Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
Well, you can get it. You can also get it in powder form.
Right. You can. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very expensive
and
though.
yeah, it is. And so, um, I didn't know if there was any rhyme or reason to how I did this today, but um, what kind of questions do you have, or what kind of questions do you think that somebody watching this would have? That
Well,
because
that I'm just asking them
I'd
as
like
they
to.
pop into my head. Like that's, basically what I do is when you say something and then it piques my curiosity or I have a question, then I ask it. So, yeah, I didn't really understand what you were saying when when I asked about whether the pyramid materialized. Did it actually materialize? Kind of
Yes,
like in Star Trek, like
yes,
when something just goes, yeah. Okay.
absolutely, absolutely. And so that gets back to what I was saying that um, if the pyramids were to come back online every today, anything that is not in harmonic resonance with the divine design or original creation would dematerialize.
Okay.
And
Yes.
so
Okay.
and so I know that gets in, that may be where I lose some people, and that that's too woo woo for them. Um, but if
Then
you
they
can,
shouldn't be watching my channel.
right. But if you if you look at, I mean, I can really explain this to where a 10-year-old can understand it. Back in 69, 70, they came out with Star Trek, and one of the things they had was the transporter room. A lot of people think he said, "Beam me up, Scotty." No, they would say, "Energize."
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And so what I believe happened is when they say energize, is it speeds up all the atoms, electrons, neurons, things like that in your body faster than the speed of light. And if you looked at when they energized, their entire body dematerialized and it became little light particles. And
Yes. Right.
they would go from Starship Enterprise down to the planet or what have you and
Right.
rematerialize. Okay.
Right.
Um, so if what I call counterfeit technology can do that, how much more powerful are we?
Yeah.
If we had
Right.
our full potential um,
Right.
back.
If we
So
had our capstones back.
so yeah, if you speak to the elements, you can congeal them together to form a stone. You can and so but your mind would be able to communicate with all uh 2+ million stones. Well, I'd even like to say this: there, each one of those stones have a name. Um, and you probably say, well, how do I know that? Well, you know, astral travel, out of body, you know, these are things. This is the non-physical phenomena that I have experienced in my life, and I've kind of walked between um, both worlds, beyond the veil or between the veil, and you can get to a point to where there is no veil. There is no veil. You can be uh, conscious of all this.
I would say that each stone has its own unique energy signature.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can take it off screen share if you want to.
Okay.
Um, and so have a have a done a good enough job to help people understand that pyramids weren't built, that they were created? Because if I haven't, I'd like to answer any questions.
I think it makes sense to me. That totally makes sense that when I was asking about did they materialize, that's why I was asking that, because to me that makes more sense than somebody having a bunch of, you know, slaves come along and build this thing and you know, that just doesn't make no, that doesn't make any sense. If you look at the structure and you look at how it was put together so flawlessly, and that was not man-made. And you can tell that it was the energy of it alone is just incredible. Even if you're not there to see it, even just looking at the picture of it, you can feel the energy of it. It's incredible.
We know, I think it was, just do a Google search. China transports proton. I mean, you don't have to do it now. I'm just telling people.
Oh,
Google,
okay,
Google.
because I could.
China transports proton from ground to space station. So in other words, but here's the thing: they were doing it back in 1968, 1970, and because anything they've ever showed us in the movies, they've got that technology.
Yeah.
And I believe Frank Chile said that they're at least 1,500 years ahead in technology. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I've been telling people, I said you need to think 100 to 1,000 years ahead. But he has the real knowledge, and he's saying they're 1,500 years ahead in technology. So
Yeah.
if
Maybe
if
more.
people if people were to look at declassified documents, at what kind of technology that the Space Force has,
Yeah.
if they would just look at their technology, it's mind bending. It's absolutely mind bending what they have. So if that's what they have, and it's a counterfeit to the divine design, the original blueprint, that ought to tell people what we're capable of.
What was it? China transports what?
China transports proton from the ground to the space station.
I'm just looking it up now. I'm curious. I'm the curious type. First object transported from Earth to orbit. Would that be it? Oh, beam me up,
Maybe.
Scotty. Sort of Chinese scientists teleport information from a photon from Earth to space. Yeah, that must be it.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, I'm gonna in a second. I gotta share screen. You can see that, right?
Yeah. And
Okay.
so,
Yeah, there it is. Beam me up, teleporting is real, even if Trekkie transport isn't. Okay, interesting. Well, I guess that's it right there. So if you want to look up this article, yeah, it's right there.
yeah, but science is catching up and is backing up what I'm saying.
Right.
But here's the thing: you don't need science to back up. You
No.
don't need a. You don't. I'm just saying you don't need a degree. I'm sorry, you don't need a degree. Think about Edgar Casey, about what he said. And the
A degree could kind of hold you
they have,
back.
right. They have, well, unfortunately, because once you get indoctrinated, in other words,
Yeah.
this is what you're taught to believe is, and it's got to fit within that construct and those
Parameters. Yeah. And
parameters
you have to
within.
unlearn everything that you just learned. You have to unlearn it. Literally.
And that's what I say in my book. For a moment, forget everything. Kind of like, and like again, they put all this stuff out in the movies. When in the movie Doctor Strange, the master told her, he said, "Forget everything you think you know.
Hmm.
Open your eye, buddy." And she opens up his pineal gland, and he has a trip.
Yeah.
Uh, and so yeah. Um, so hopefully we've helped people understand that the pyramids weren't built; they were created, and how they were created. Now,
Absolutely. Yeah.
whether you wanna call them Sumerians or Atlanteans, I believe Atlantean was a colonization of the Earth. The whole Earth was Atlantis. Um,
Yeah.
we could go into different realms. When different civilizations existed. It's mind blowing. The evidence is mind blowing. Um, I mean, because I can look down from a 70,000 foot view, a God's eye view of the Earth as a motherboard, and I can see how interdimensionally how all the pyramids are connected. So that's another thing. If the pyramids were to come online right now, it would pull the energy. It would pull gold dust out of the core of the Earth.
Hmm.
It could shoot it straight through the capstones. It would re-terraform the Earth. The Earth would become less dense. You know, our bodies would become less dense. All existing technology would become obsolete. It would dematerialize anything that's not in harmonic resonance with the Earth, and it would usher back in a golden age of um, supernatural abilities and potential.
Yeah. Phenomena.
And yeah, you talk about it. You talk about a phenomena, and so yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's that. I mean, can we hope for that? Can we hope for them actually putting the capstone back on and at some point somebody doing it?
Well, I do have a project called the Pyramidion Project.
Yes.
Pyramidion is the capstone.
Yes.
And based on everything that I've said, one of the smoking guns that they're not looking at is the acoustic properties. If they
Mm.
couldn't, if they didn't have the ability, or if they didn't want to look at the non-physical phenomena that Nikola Tesla was talking about, and the things that I have experienced, you got to realize it. I've experienced non-physical phenomena. So, but there are a lot of people out there that have experienced it, and but some of the things that they say I appreciate, but I'm like, zero in on that. Get away from that academia mind for a moment and zero in on what you're talking about. So if you look at the acoustic properties of the King's Chamber, the chamber that's way deep below,
Yeah.
people that are allowed to go down there and they can actually tap, they can connect to the King's Chamber at the top of in the middle of the pyramid. But there are other voids in there. So in other words, I can understand where they may think it's a hydrogen reactor or some kind of power plant, but there are other voids that have not been revealed yet. It's not that they've
Yeah.
not been discovered; they haven't been revealed yet. So when these other voids are exposed, well, then the hydrogen reactor and the power plant is going
Yeah.
to go away, and you're going to say, okay, well, what do these voids mean?
Right.
And I can
It's
guarantee
actually,
I can guarantee you it's going to go to the acoustic properties of
yeah.
the mind.
Right, because what they're looking at it being is something physical, something that we won't need anymore. It'll be um archaic in a way.
Absolutely. And so when I say it's a harmonic resonant instrument to transform human consciousness, um, you're talking about a certain sound and a certain frequency.
Yes.
And so if they were all to come back online, oh wow, you know,
Right.
everybody's talking about a shift, or some type of plasma event or solar event or what have you. Nobody really knows. But um,
I think it's
the Earth is alive. What if the Earth says, you know what, the Earth could shake us off her like we're just nothing but a bunch of ants.
mm,
And
right.
so that's an interesting thought.
Well, that's what I was thinking too, was that I was talking about this yesterday with someone that if our frequency doesn't match the Earth's frequency, then we can no longer really be here. Like if we're not resonating at the same higher frequency as the earth shifts into a higher density. If we don't shift along with it and also raise our frequencies, then we won't be able to stay on the earth. We would just literally fall off, but not like, almost kind of like, fleas fall off. Um, a pet that, has fleas. So I guess in a way that's kind of what I'm likening it to. And I
Well,
also
it
think
almost
that, go ahead.
go ahead. Well, it almost has a biblical narrative. The Bible talks about in the moment, in the twinkling of an eye, this mortal shall
Mm,
put on immortal, incorruptible, so on and so forth. Um, but another interesting note is kind of lost my thought there.
mhm.
Um, well, I haven't ever thought about this before, but what if the Earth just said, you know what, I've had enough of this, and the Earth did it.
Yeah,
They said, you
that's
know
what I'm
what,
like,
I
because
need to,
right,
because the Earth
the earth is conscious.
the Earth is conscious, so this is going to blow people's minds. So if you think about uh, acupuncture, acupuncture, the body has energy meridians. And
Hmm.
so if you go to an acupuncturist, they put needles in your body on these energy points
Points.
to
Yep.
pull the energy out.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So where are all these pyramids and obelisks and temples?
On the energy points of the earth.
Right.
Hmm.
So don't tell me that I don't think anybody can tell me that the earth can say, you know what? I need to release this negative energy
Yeah.
that this matrix beast. So in other words, the earth itself
Can consciously do it. Yeah.
through the pyramids or the obelisks, which are needles,
Mm.
when
Hmm.
it makes so much sense, it's like a 10-year-old could understand it.
Yeah.
For me to be understand it, because I'm a simple guy, and that just makes absolute sense to me.
Well, yeah, it does. And it's all about, as Tesla had said, it's all about frequency, right? And sound frequencies is what we're talking about here with the pyramid. So, yeah, if that's the simple thing. It's so simple that it's right in front of us. It's right in our face, and we're trying to make it so much more complicated than it really is.
Well, if you look at the what are the seven wonders of the ancient world, eight wonders of the ancient world, the only one that's left is the pyramid.
Mm,
The
yeah,
only one that's left is the Great Pyramid. And
right.
so, what is God's source trying to tell us? Why is that the last remaining structure of the ancient world still remaining?
Mm,
And what if the Ark of the Covenant actually fits perfectly inside the king's chamber?
mm, right.
Because it represents consciousness, and it's our divine energetic blueprint. Uh, you know, you know, you can go deep with this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
and
the what I was
go
talking
ahead.
about, you talked about, could it come back online? I believe that we're here for a reason. I believe this is
Mm,
probably one of the greatest times in the history of mankind to be alive, because I believe the earth is going to change positively. Um, so the Pyramidion project
I was just gonna
is
ask.
for
You read my mind.
is is I'd like to get people that understand me to where I don't have to explain myself.
Hmm.
people that people that resonate with me, that would like to collaborate with me. So I've got step one, step two, or stage one, stage two. Step one would be to bring people together to collaborate about this. Step two would be to gather the resources to the provision for the vision, if you will, to collectively bring these people together. And then there are a few ancient sites that we need to go visit. Um, in Egypt, there are some down in Bolivia, Teotihuacan, Mexico, also Romania and Istanbul, Turkey. There are
Yes.
some things there. Um, and there's quantum holographic technology inside the Earth,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and and governments know about it. Governments know about it, and so again, I watched a Joe Rogan video, just a 30-second clip that basically said that he believes something's going to happen, and those that are trying to control the narrative, or this is their last ditch effort to try to control things because they know they're fixing to lose control of it. And something very beautiful is going to happen for mankind. And I love saying mankind because we're not human. We're not humanity. We're mankind. So
We're beings.
that's right. Right.
We're just being.
Right. That's right.
So what would you like, anything more you would like to say about the Pyramidion project, perhaps? Or
Just reach out to me. I guess I'm gonna send you my link tree
yes,
link, um, because they can get my book on the link, but they'll have a link to send me a direct message, to contact me if you'd like to collaborate with me, if you'd like to be a part of the Pyramidion project.
right.
Um, I'd love
And
to love to
and that, yeah,
collaborate with you.
it sounds amazing. So anybody who is interested, I'm going to put it in the description. There'll be a link that it's the link tree. It has everything that you need to know about Mark in the link tree. So check
Right.
out all the links.
And so, basically step one, meet the people, people that resonate with me that would like to be a part of the project.
Yeah,
Step two, pulling the private funding together to fund it. Go to these ancient sites and then come back and create, not build, create a pyramidion where people can actually come and not just talk about it, but let's see,
yeah.
because without the creative environment, I saw one estimate, it would cost like $15 billion to try to recreate the Great Pyramid,
Oh yeah.
but they don't have the technology to do it.
They couldn't even
They don't
do
have
it.
the technology to do it. So
Hmm.
they don't know who did it, why they built it, when they built it. They don't know any of that. So if they can't answer any of those questions,
Right.
well then maybe, just maybe, you ought to listen to one of the greatest minds and benevolent beings that ever walked Earth,
Toth.
that contribute to contribute to that, not, well, Thoth, but
Yeah.
Nikola Tesla.
Yeah, well, him
But
too.
but well,
They're the same.
there is knowledge um,
Mm.
in the Emerald Tablet that gives hints to
Absolutely.
the creative ability and the conscious ability uh, of a creator being.
Yes.
And
It's a
I didn't really
very
have a chance to touch on Thoth, but um, yeah, you can tap into these energies.
absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming on and telling us all about your book and the information that you've shared with us today is fascinating and mind-boggling, as I suspected. And I just really want to tell everybody out there, this is something that if it really speaks to you, if it really calls you, please feel free to reach out. Thank you for watching, and please leave a comment, and we will answer every comment that you leave. It's just something that I want to see happen in the future, which is, and I think everybody does, but that we can all really tap into our potentials and our full powers and what we can do, what we can really do, because we're not slaves and we're not meant to be slaves to a system or to anybody else. So we can create. That's the one thing that we have as, this ability as humanity, the ability to create with our thoughts. And that's very unique and very beautiful. So everybody that this resonates with, please contact Mark, contact me, leave a comment, And thank you for sharing, and thank you for liking and subscribing to my channel. Um, I appreciate that. And I'm also on Patreon, Potentials Podcast on Patreon. If you'd like to get some, information that we can't post on YouTube, there's a lot of really good videos and people that I've interviewed. Um, the guests that I have are really remarkable, and Mark is one of them. So
Yeah.
thank you for coming, and I appreciate that you took the time to share all of this with us.
Well, thank you for, doing what you're doing, and I'm really humbled and honored, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak about this. And like I said, when I was thinking about somebody that's even capable of, and I don't want this coming out wrong, but capable of interviewing me, because um, like to some people it's woo woo, it's way way out there, but you know, um, I think God's source has left these ancient sites and these ancient structures here, there for a reason, and why they're still standing after the flood and so on and so forth. And um, again, if you look at the time we're living in, it's in the air. People just know, they're just believing something supernatural, some non-physical
Mm,
phenomena. They're believing something. The whole earth, mankind is getting prepped for something to happen. And I really believe that if you want to see a golden age and a positive shift um, for the earth, the pyramids are the answer.
mm. Definitely, there is a representation of all of our potential of what we could be and what we are. We just don't realize it yet, but we're getting there.
We're going to get there.
Yep.
Well, I really,
Okay.
I
Well,
really, I really, really appreciate you, and thank y'all. Thank you for
thank
having me,
you.
and thank y'all for listening.
Thank you. Thanks again, Mark. I really appreciate you coming on, and very grateful to you for sharing all of that with us. And everyone, thank you again for listening, and we'll be back again with more interesting information next time. Ciao for now.